Welcome back to the debate. The UK Open has just gone by, and James Wade is a champion of the UK Open in 3 different decades, and maybe even considered one of the best of all time. Now we'll get onto that later, but the UK Open, for a start, a great tournament to watch. We know how much of a fan favourite it is in usual circumstances with the 8 boards and being able to not mix with the players, but able to have a closer sort of look at some of the players instead of them being many meters away on stage. It's a tournament that's been a real fans' favourite over the years. Disappointed to see no fans in there this year, but for me at least, a great tournament. What do you think of it, Sam?
Yeah, it was brilliant. To be fair, I didn't know how it'd go because, of course, we've only had the Masters and we haven't had a tournament like the UK Open for God, nigh on about 10 years. Of course, since they end up shifting over to ITV, and we had the multi-board system and all that. People were kind of we're kind of reminiscing and it was kind of romanticized before the tournament kind of came around without kind of thinking how it would work. We've only ever really seen one UK Open behind closed doors, and that was the famous snow year that me and you both remember quite well. And yeah, I think it worked really well. Of course, we had action begin really early on Friday afternoon with a 9 darter within only 9 minutes from a young Pole who impressed over the weekend and wasn't the only Pole to impress. But yeah, you know my opinion on James Wade. I'm a big fan of James Wade, always have been, and I'm very happy to see him claim a 10th title. And it was a final that you wouldn't have expected going into that draw. Of course, we had James Wade and Luke Humphries, a bit like in the Masters when we had I think it was Wright and Price that were in the semi-finals, and then we ended up getting Merv versus Clayton, which, as you can remember, was a quality final. And it was the same with Wade Humphries. Really, we got a final we didn't expect, but another major winner who we did kind of expect in James Wade. He always kind of gets picked pre-tournament for another major win because you never kind of know you never kind of know which James Wade's going to come out, but he produced quality displays over the weekend, as did Luke Humphries. But I think he ran out of steam after that Michael Van Gerwen game, a bit like the curse of Michael Van Gerwen which is of course snapped by Johnny Clayton, in terms of Simon Whitlock, Ian White, players like that who have gone on to lose next round. We kind of had similar here. He kind of just ran out of steam and played his final before the final. So
Yeah, and I think this was thoroughly deserved for James Wade. I mean, towards the end of last year, you look at some of the results on his resume: World Series semi-finals, and then made the final of the European Championships and the Grand Slam. In arguably, he could have won those if he'd have been up to scratch, if he'd have been playing how he played at the UK Open this week. I think he had around a 99 tournament average, and you'd like to think if he'd have done that in those finals, then maybe he would have been a winner last year and have grabbed that all-important Premier League place. But the title win has come in 2021 for James Wade, and we're just obviously just two major tournaments into the year, and there's so much more to come this year. If James Wade is playing at a 99 sort of average standard, which you would probably have to say is slightly above what he's done in the last few years. You expect James Wade to be hitting 96, 97s and winning games with those sort of averages, but to hit a 99, and I think he hit 6 180s in the semi-final against Gerwin Price. Don't see that often from James Wade. So his scoring on the last day in particular was superb, and really, really good stuff from James Wade, and ominous times for those in the top 10 with Wade playing as well he did over the weekend.
yeah, I think I kind of say he was very annoyed to not be included in the Premier League, and he kind of said as much towards the back end of last year that of course he kind of deserved to be in there, and that he was being overlooked, and that he was upset that he wasn't getting included, and I think he even said it in his post match interview in the final, in terms of how he's kind of proved the point now that he deserves to be in these spots, including in the Premier League. And it'll be interesting to see. Of course, he kind of has to be included in the Premier League next year. But if we kind of, it's like you said, if we had that extra time instead of deciding after the Masters, would he have ended up getting the spot? It's something to kind of think about and kind of ponder whether or not Johnny Clayton would have got that spot, or whether it would have been James Wade. or whether somebody else would have got taken out, including the likes of Rob Cross, Nathan Aspinall, and players like that, who some people believe don't kind of deserve to be included in the lineup, especially Cross, who is now down to world number 5 going into the Premier League, and it's usually the top 4 that end up getting included, and James Wade's now included in that, but he won't be in the lineup this year. So it's quite interesting as well in terms of the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, for me, looking at the lineup, I mean, Rob Cross, I think it's fair to say Rob Cross was included because he was in the top 4, not because of any of his results during the season. And now he's down to world number 5. If the Premier League had been picked after the UK Open, I very much doubt that Rob Cross would have been in the lineup. But as it happened, it wasn't. It was picked after the Masters, and Rob Cross has got a chance, and it's a big chance for Rob Cross. There's no ranking money is sort of included in the Premier League, as we know, but a chance to play big name players and a chance to try and gather some form, playing every Thursday. Well, not every Thursday. This year, obviously, it's 5 days in a row, and then a couple of weeks break, and then another 5 days, I believe, in Milton Keynes up until Judgment Night. It's a chance to play these big players for Rob Cross, and he's going to need to start putting some form together if he wants to be competitive in the Premier League. And if he starts picking up results against those big names, it's going to make the Players' Championships and all the other major events a lot not easier, but he's going to make him a lot more competitive in those sort of environments. So it's a big chance for Rob Cross, and we look forward to seeing James in the Premier League in around a year's time now. So, of course, barring the winner in James Wade from the UK Open, there's plenty more to talk about from the tournament. Good runs for some other names. Luke Humphries, obviously, making a final is a real breakthrough for him. He's obviously been in 2 World Championship quarterfinal, World Youth Champion, but we haven't seen a final run or consistency of that sort of magnitude for Luke Humphries. Even Christoph Ratajski looked really, really good over the weekend. And Gerwyn Price and Michael van Gerwen going out in the semi-finals. We were both expecting a Price van Gerwen final, and we didn't get either of them in the end. So throwing up some real surprises, which is something you don't mind seeing, is it?
Yeah, I think I even ended up saying to you when the draw ended up coming out, because of how convenient it was, as Eddie Hearn would say, in terms of both of those names being drawn on the opposite side of the draw. Of course, last year we ended up getting that brilliant final, the thrilling final that Gerwyn Price, in my opinion, should have won against Michael van Gerwen, and of course it was the other way around this year. We ended up getting two names that we didn't end up expecting to end up coming through the field. Well, of course, in terms of James Wade, we did kind of expect it, but he hasn't really had a good he hasn't had a really good display since I think back in the days of the Reebok at the UK Open. I don't think he's reached the last stages for a number of years in the UK Open, barring, of course, it's one of those in terms of his 2 title wins. It's a bit of an anomaly, really, because he hasn't really played to his potential in this event before. And yeah, in terms of Luke Humphries, even bigger of a surprise. He ended up having that positive COVID test for Justin Pye that ended up giving him one less game, and then he kind of rolled on from there and produced some brilliant displays along the way. Of course, we ended up touching on the Michael van Gerwen display. It was absolutely brilliant. A bit, I kind of draw parallels even with the Dave Gisnell display at the Worlds. He was just smashing the trebles, smashing the doubles, and with an effortless throw like that, when if he's on, it literally just looks so effortless. And yeah, he ended up reaching the final, and of course ran out of steam against a very clinical James Wade, a completely different play style compared to Michael van Gerwen, and he ended up paying the price, and we're sitting here now with James Wade as the winner.
Yeah, and you talk about James Wade making latter stages of the UK Open. I've just had a look, and I didn't realise until you mentioned it.
Yeah,
last time he reached the quarterfinal was 2013.
Yeah,
that's 8 years ago since James Wade was in the quarterfinals of the UK Open, which is incredible, really. And he's now another major champion, and there's plenty around the corner for James Wade, I'm sure. Another few names I think we have to touch on in terms of new tour card holders that had decent runs at the UK Open. Alan Suter is one that's going to jump out. We'll talk about him in a second. But also John Brown reaching the last 32 in his first TV major, really, for John Brown, son of Steve Brown, of course, who unfortunately exited early after not making it to the board in time. I believe he was actually watching his son play and didn't make it to his game with Scott Waits in the opening round. But John Brown put in some really, really good displays and beat Mark McGeaney to make it to that stage, a player that I've just got to say, he's lost 7 stone and he looks absolutely incredible. He looks like a completely different man.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really incredible stuff from Mark McGeaney. And it's inspirational seeing that sort of thing, isn't it? Because we saw him last year at the UK Open and he looked like Mark McGeaney has for 10 years. And that's nothing against him at all, but he's obviously gone out in the last year and he's obviously put some work in, and to get 7 stone off in a year, it might be even less than that, is absolutely incredible shift. So absolute credit to Mark McGeaney there, and for him to get a couple of wins on the board, I'm sure will do his confidence some good as well. But John Brown, a great run for him, and I'll let you do the work on Alan Suter.
No, indeed. I kind of say in terms of Mark McGeaney, I ended up watching him, of course, in the final of the Lakeside, and he completely looks like a new man. And I ended up flicking onto the streaming board on over the weekend when he was playing Steve Beaton, and it was. I didn't even think it was Mark McGeaney. I thought he was playing somebody else, and ended up getting it wrong. Like, I haven't actually seen him since of course the weight loss. Of course, I kind of throw Luke Humphries into that bracket. He's lost a massive amount of weight, and he even said in terms of stamina that it massively helps in terms of a tournament like the UK Open when you have these long arduous days, especially on the last day when you end up playing of course multiple games in the same day, and then of course went on to reach the final. And yeah, in terms of Alan Suter, I kind of expected it going into the weekend after a brilliant Super Series and of course Q School. He ended up drawing Raymond van Barneveld, and I kind of say it was an awful draw for Raymond to go onto that main stage. And of course, ITV ended up scheduling that afternoon onto the main stage, and we ended up getting Suter versus Mickey Mantle, which was actually a very good game to when the session off, and he reached the last stages and was kind of and he was very much unlucky against Dave Chisnell to end up losing from I think it was 8-6 up. He ended up losing to Dave, who of course had another good run, and he's continuing to play really well. But it's brilliant signs for Alan Suter, and I'm hoping he can keep it up going into the Super Series.
Yeah, I think out of all the tour card holders, he's been the player that's been right up there and kept the standard there. He looked great in the first set of Super Series events, and he looked great in the UK Open. Just looking over his results, obviously beating Raymond van Barneveld. That game against Mickey Mansell, 104 average nearly. That is what you expect from the best players in the world. So for a new tour card holder to be doing that, he must be playing well. Defeated Stephen Bunting in round 4 as well, who's obviously a World Championship semi-finalist and a Lakeside champion as well. So some big names on the list there for Alan Suter. Obviously Rung Moonkamp as well in round 5. So the players he's beat over the last couple of weeks, he'll gain an awful lot of confidence from that. And I saw people saying on Twitter over the weekend that obviously he's a firefighter, and pressure on the stage. I mean, does he feel that? Because he's going to be in high pressure situations all the time in his job, isn't he? So when he goes up on that stage, is it really the same pressure he feels in his job? And that may well be part of how he's doing so well, but he's certainly playing some absolutely incredible darts. And I think Alan Suter, out of all the tour card holders, is probably the biggest threat to the big names at the moment.
Yeah, I think he even said that he's almost just giving it a go because he can now. In terms of playing the BDO, the BDF system, representing Scotland, he's kind of been there, done it, and got the T-shirt in terms of that. And he's now a bit like Scott Mitchell come over for come over for one final crack to give it a go. And of course, he kind of has no pressure in terms of his job. Johnny Clayton's kind of similar. And if I were Johnny, I wouldn't give up his day. I wouldn't give up his day job because it's a winning formula. And we've seen players in the past that have kind of given it up too soon and have kind of faltered as a result. And I think not having that pressure and having to go back to the day job during the week, I think it massively suits someone like Alan Suter, who can kind of he can kind of drift in and out throughout the year and kind of play these series events in the major tournaments. But a bit like Dirk van Dijvenbode, if he can kind of qualify for these bigger tournaments, it will be a question of whether or not he will have to give up his day job. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if he can actually keep it up or whether or not it's just an early season fluke. But he's put himself into a great position to even qualify for the World Championships this early on over in one weekend, as well as John Brown, even who was even just he was just behind his dad in terms of the order of merit by the end of the weekend, which he was played for a year. shows the amount of money that can be won on one weekend, especially when he's only been on the tour for a few weeks. And he was a massive surprise to me. For me this weekend, getting as far as he did. Of course, some people can kind of say that he kind of had a few good draws, but you only have to win the games in front of you, and he definitely did that before, of course, running out of steam against a very good Chris Dobie and over on stage 2.
Yeah, really good stuff from John Brown, and I'm sure that will give him awful lot of confidence going forward. The final thing we'll touch on from the UK Open is the strong contingent of Polish players going forward in the world of darts. You've got Krzysztof Ratajski at the top, and his performance against Johnny Clayton was superb, for want of a better word. 103.5 average in that one, but you've also got Krzysztof Kachuk, who's playing on the Pro Tour, Titus Kanik, who's obviously been there before. You've seen him in the World Cup of Darts. And it seems, although, Poland has a new star on the horizon. Sebastian Bielecki, I may well or may not be saying that wrong. I apologise if I am. But
some of the impressions we've heard this past weekend is probably towards the right, to be fair.
But how good was he over the weekend? I mean, as we said earlier, 9 minutes in or so to the tournament, hitting that 9-darter against Jim McEwen, and then going on and continuing to win games, beat Jitsi van der Waal, and got into that third round where I will just look down my list and see who he played. I'm struggling to find it, but he really put in some good performances. Dirk Telnekis in the next round, a 6-3 win there before unfortunately going out in the next round, but some absolutely stunning stuff from a player that's still only 17 years of age. I mean, you look at some of these players. I mean, John Brown, I believe, is 22, and he's getting his first shot of the tour. Keane Barry's, I believe, 19 now. 17 years of age is very, very impressive to be qualifying for a major tournament, even though it's through the Q School Order of Merit this year. And to go out there and get 3 wins in a major tournament against some very experienced names is terrific for the man himself and terrific for Polish darts.
Yeah, I think it was the development tour end up qualifying for. I think he finished literally just inside the top 8, but then he would have qualified through Q School as well, because I think he finished towards the lower end of the, I think it was top 20 in the Q School. He kind of came out of nowhere though, because he was touted by some sections of Twitter who kind of know their darts in terms of Q School, but he didn't really perform that well. Of course, it's an even tougher school in European with the amount of spaces available, the amount of players that ended up missing out. But he ended up taking his chance of being an associate member qualifier and kind of showed how brilliant he was. Of course, 9 minutes in, I was doing a live blog over the weekend, and I was kind of looking at my phone thinking, it's going to be a nice easy start to the afternoon, and then we end up getting a 9-darter for a bit. And I was just like, oh god, here we go. Compared to the Super Series in the past few weeks, when of course Michael Smith won only 13 minutes into the action beginning in Bolton, yeah. And I think Alan Warren a little even touched on it in terms of the amount of 9-darters and the amount of standard that we've kind of seeing at the moment. We end up having it both at the UK Open, Super Series, and even Q School, which is kind of unheard of in terms of the names hitting 9-dart finishes. And is kind of been coming around as much as 10 and 11 darters at the moment, and it's brilliant to see. It'll be interesting to see how he kicks on now. Of course, we end up getting in the development tour. The amount of names that will drop off, the likes of Ryan Meikle, Martin Schindler, etc., are starting to get a bit too old for the development tour. I think Ryan Meikle, I think he is too old as of this year. So players like that won't be hoovering up titles as much, and I think we will see a bit more of an even spread in terms of the development tour going forward. And it'll be interesting to see whether if he can pick up a title, a bit like the likes of Damien Moll and other players like that who ended up kind of upsetting the apple cart last year in the development tour towards the end of the year. But of course, we don't have a full calendar as of yet, so he's kind of taken his chance while he's got it before any development tour or challenge tour action is going to take place. But yes, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how he's going to go from here, and whether or not he can live up to the promise. A bit like Louis Williams, who ended up having such a good UK Open last year. It'll be interesting to see if he can do similar and get himself on the Pro Tour as of next year. Of course, they're similar ages as well. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what he can do next.
Yeah, definitely big times ahead for Sebastian Bielecki, and brilliant UK Open done and dusted. James Wade joins the esteemed group of players to win majors in 3 decades. And congratulations to James. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you very, very soon.